Surprisingly, over 90% of viewers haven't subscribed yet. If you're enjoying the content, hit that subscribe button. It motivates us to keep creating and helps us never miss an upload. And you'll never miss a story again. I used to think love was a straight line. You meet someone, you build a life, you grow together. Simple, steady, predictable. That's how it was with me and Clara. We met at a friend's engagement party, of all places. She was wearing this emerald green dress that made her eyes glow, and she laughed like she wasn't trying to impress anyone, just genuinely enjoying the moment. That night, we talked until the candles burned low and the music faded, and from there, it was easy. Dinners turned into weekends, weekends into months. Before long, we moved into a small but cozy apartment downtown. I work as an electrician, long hours but honest work. Clara was in marketing, corporate job, business casual, meetings I couldn't keep track of. But we made time, always. Every morning, she'd leave a sticky note on the coffee machine. Some said, "Love you." Others were jokes or reminders like, "Don't forget your lunch, Mr. Forgetful." I saved them all in a drawer. Silly maybe, but they meant something. We had our routines, Friday movie nights, Sunday pancakes. Every first Saturday of the month, we'd drive out to the lake with sandwiches and just watch the water. That lake was where I planned to propose. She said yes. Of course she did. Her eyes watered, and she threw her arms around me, the little diamond ring catching the sunlight. That night we drank cheap champagne on a blanket, dreaming out loud about our future, kids, travel, growing old together. Things changed slowly, like a faucet dripping. First, it was the texts. She used to reply right away. Then suddenly she was too busy or in meetings. Her phone, once casually left on the coffee table, now lived face down or locked away in her purse. When I asked about it, she laughed. "Work's been nuts," she'd say, brushing it off with a tired smile. "You know how it is." I wanted to believe her. I did. People get busy. Life gets messy. But her eyes weren't tired from work. They were tired from pretending. And somewhere deep down, I think I already knew. It was a Thursday evening when I first heard his name. "Who's Alex?" I asked as she tossed her heels by the door. She froze for half a second. "Oh, Alex? Just a new guy in the creative department. We've been collaborating on this big campaign." I nodded, pretending that explanation made me feel better. I wanted it to. I tried to stop the pit in my stomach from growing, but it stayed. Over the next few weeks, Alex came up more often. They had lunch meetings, brainstorm sessions, late-night calls. She started working weekends, said the campaign was time-sensitive. I remember watching her pack a weekend bag one Friday, claiming they were doing an off-site team retreat. "Company rented a cabin," she said, not meeting my eyes. "Strictly work, babe." I smiled, kissed her forehead, told her to have fun. That weekend, a storm rolled in like a bad omen. I was supposed to go fishing with my brother, but the weather turned nasty. Lightning split the sky in half, and I got called out for an emergency job. An outage had taken out power in a nearby neighborhood. We were fixing a damaged transformer when a bolt struck a tree just 50 yards from us. The blast was deafening. My partner got thrown back. I caught the edge of the shockwave and hit the ground hard. Next thing I remember was waking up in the hospital with a nurse hovering above me. They said I was lucky. Just a mild concussion and a sprained wrist. I told them I'd call my fiancé. I did. It rang 4 times before she picked up. "Hey." Her voice was hushed, like she'd stepped away from someone. I told her what happened, about the hospital, the lightning, the scare. She paused. Too long. "Oh my God, are you okay?" she asked, but her tone was wrong. Hollow, like someone reading from a script. "I'm fine, just wanted to hear your voice, sir," I said. "I'll come home tomorrow night," she replied quickly. "They're keeping us busy." She didn't ask which hospital, didn't offer to leave. I hung up slowly, my heart sinking deeper. I asked my brother to drive me home the next morning. I couldn't shake the feeling. Something was off. And then, like fate had a cruel sense of humor, I found her tablet charging in the living room. She always used her phone, never the tablet, which meant she forgot to log out. There it was. A message preview on the lock screen. Alex, last night was unforgettable. Wish you didn't have to sneak out this morning. My stomach twisted. I stared at it, not wanting to believe what my eyes were screaming. I didn't touch it, didn't open it, didn't need to. The truth had already broken through. She came home Sunday night, kissed me like nothing was wrong, and I let her. Pretended for a few more hours that we were still us, that I was still enough, but I wasn't. Not to her. And now I had to decide what that meant. I spent that night staring at the ceiling. Her breathing was steady beside me, the way it always had been. I used to find comfort in that. Rhythm. Now it felt like a lie, every inhale a whisper of betrayal. I didn't sleep. I couldn't. Not with that message etched into my brain. The next morning, she made coffee like she always did. Kissed my cheek, talked about traffic and deadlines and how she couldn't find her beige heels. I watched her, really watched her, and wondered how long she'd been pretending. I didn't confront her, not yet. I needed more than a message preview. I needed to see the whole picture, even if it broke me. And part of me, God help me, hoped I was wrong. That it was all some misunderstanding. That Alex was just a friend with a bad sense of humor. But deep down, I knew. I called in sick the next day. Said I was still recovering from the fall. Clara left early, said they were finalizing their campaign, and might grab drinks to celebrate. She kissed me goodbye like we were fine. I waited an hour, then opened the tablet. The passcode was her birthday. The messages were all there. A thread that ran back for weeks, long conversations, inside jokes, photos. Nothing explicit, but enough to break my heart in slow motion. Talk of hotel rooms, how much they missed each other, how she couldn't wait to feel normal again, whatever that meant. She called him safe, said I'd been distracted lately, that she felt unseen. I wasn't perfect, I know that. I worked long hours, missed a few date nights, forgot anniversaries sometimes, but I loved her, fully, quietly, the kind of love that fixes the sink at midnight and picks up her favorite snacks without being asked. She wanted fireworks, maybe, something louder. I left the tablet where I found it, didn't even close the app. That night, she came home smelling like expensive cologne and hotel shampoo. I knew because I used to travel for jobs, and hotel shampoo has a specific scent, clean and impersonal. She didn't notice the tablet had moved, didn't notice how I was watching her differently. The next day, I packed a bag. She was in the shower when I left. I didn't leave a note, just walked out the door with my duffel and a broken sense of self. I stayed with my brother for a few days, told him the truth. He offered to go talk to her. Just a conversation, he said. But I told him no. This wasn't a fight I needed him in. It wasn't even a fight I wanted anymore. I needed space, time, clarity. But life has a way of rushing you before you're ready. 3 days later, Clara called me. Her voice was trembling. She said Alex had been in an accident. Some kind of electrical fire at the office. He was burned badly. They rushed him to the hospital. I didn't know how to respond. I'm sorry, didn't seem right. Are you okay? Felt too generous? I just needed to tell someone, she said, crying softly. I didn't know who else to call. I could have hung up, but something in me, the part that still remembered her favorite ice cream and how she cried during animal rescue commercials, said, do you want me to come to the hospital? She said yes. I don't know why I went. Maybe for closure. Maybe because I needed to see what she had thrown everything away for. The hospital smelled like bleach and uncertainty. I found her in the waiting room, pacing. Her eyes were red, her hands clenched into fists. When she saw me, she broke, ran into my arms like I was still hers. I let her, stood still as she wept against my chest. It felt wrong, familiar, and foreign all at once. He's in surgery, she whispered. It's bad. They don't know if he'll walk again. I didn't say anything, just nodded. We sat for an hour, maybe more. And then a nurse came out, asked for Alex's family. Clara stood. I'm his... She looked at me, eyes wide, like she wanted me to give her permission. I didn't. She turned back to the nurse. I'm his partner, she said finally. The word echoed in my ears like thunder. Partner. That was my cue. I stood quietly. I should go, I said. She grabbed my hand. Wait, please. I looked at her, really looked at her. She was torn, hurting, yes, but not for me, not anymore. You don't need me here, I said softly, not for this. She followed me outside. The sun was setting, turning the sky this deep, aching orange. You can't just walk away, she said, her voice cracking. After everything, I repeated, trying to hold back the swell of emotion rising in my throat. You mean after the lies? The nights you said you were working late while you were with him? Her mouth opened, closed, no words. I almost died last weekend, Clara. Got knocked out in a lightning storm while you were off, living some other life, and you didn't even ask which hospital I was in. I was scared, she whispered. No, I said, voice sharper than I meant. You were busy. She stepped back. The tears came again, real ones. I didn't mean to fall for him. It just happened. I felt invisible. You were always tired. You stopped seeing me. I never stopped seeing you, I said, pain flaring in my chest. I just trusted you. People had started to gather. Hospital staff, visitors, passers-by. I saw their eyes on us, felt the weight of their curiosity. You made me feel like I was losing my mind, I said louder now, second-guessing everything, blaming myself. And for what? So you could pretend it was my fault when you left me behind? She said nothing. I turned to walk away. You don't get to be the victim here, she called after me. Her voice was trembling but angry now. You were never present. You were always working or distracted or tired. I turned back, calm, tired, hollow. I was building a life for us. I just didn't know you were already building it with someone else. And then I left. Didn't look back. Didn't want to. I didn't know where I was going. Just knew I couldn't stay. I didn't sleep that night. Again. The air in my brother's guest room was too quiet, too heavy. It felt like I was lying under a wet blanket of silence. Every breath shallow, every thought loud. I kept hearing her voice, those last words trembling and sharp. I don't even think she knew what she wanted from me in that moment. An apology? Forgiveness? Maybe just someone to hold her guilt for a while. But I was done carrying things that weren't mine. In the days that followed, the world kept spinning. I went back to work. Clients didn't care about heartbreak. Lights still needed wiring, outages still happened, and I found some comfort in routine. It was grounding, reliable in a way my relationship hadn't been for months. Clara texted a few times. At first, it was short updates. He's stable now. Surgery went well. They think he'll recover, mostly. I didn't reply. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because I didn't have anything left to say. Every word I might have offered felt like digging through ashes. Then came the long message. The kind you stare at for too long before deciding whether to read it. She said she didn't mean for things to happen the way they did. That it started as friendship and blurred before she could stop it. She wrote about how guilty she felt every time she came home to me. Said I didn't deserve the lies, that she missed me. But guilt doesn't rebuild trust. Missing someone doesn't undo betrayal. She asked to talk. Not to get back together, she promised. Just to have a conversation. Closure, maybe. Or another chance to explain what I already understood too well. I met her at a cafe downtown. Neutral ground, public, safe. She looked thinner. Eyes tired. Hair tied up like she hadn't put much thought into being seen. I could tell she wasn't sleeping either. Hi, she said almost cautiously. Hey. We sat. Coffee steamed between us. Neither of us touched it. I'm not going to make excuses, she said. I messed up. I know I did. I nodded. Not an agreement, just acknowledgement. I just wanted you to hear it from me. I was selfish. I didn't realize how much I was hurting you until it was too late. I stared at the coffee, the way the steam curled and disappeared. I loved you, I said, not bitter, just honest. And I think some part of me still does. But that doesn't mean I can forget what you did. She swallowed, hard. I don't expect you to. I don't even expect forgiveness. I needed to say I'm sorry, truly. I believed her. Not because I wanted to, but because it was written all over her. The regret, the sorrow, the deep, aching understanding that she couldn't fix what she'd broken. Thank you, I said, for saying that. We sat in silence for a while. People came and went. Dishes clinked. Life has always moved on. What happens now? She asked. I met her eyes. Now, I move forward, without you. Her face broke, just a little. She nodded. I understand. And I think she did. I stood. She didn't follow. I walked out into the crisp afternoon, the sun warm against my skin, and for the first time in weeks, I took a full breath. That night, I cleaned out the apartment, boxed up the things she left behind. Books, a sweater, a photo frame still holding our picture. I didn't throw them out, just packed them neatly and set them aside. The past wasn't something to destroy, just something to set down and walk away from. Friends called, my brother checked in. Slowly, life crept back in, and something unexpected happened. I started to feel okay. Not every day, not all at once, but there were moments, brief, flickering moments, where the hurt loosened its grip, where laughter came without guilt, where I looked in the mirror and didn't see the man she left behind. I saw someone rebuilding, someone healing. A few weeks later, I returned to the lake, the one where I'd proposed. The air was cool, the water still. I sat on the same blanket we'd shared that night, alone but not empty. I realized I wasn't broken. Bruised, yes. Wiser, definitely. But not broken. She made her choices. I made mine. And mine was this: to let go, to walk forward, to reclaim the parts of myself I'd forgotten while trying to hold on to something that no longer held me back. That's the thing about love. It's not always about holding on. Sometimes it's about knowing when to let go, with dignity, with grace. So I did. And as I sat there watching the ripples stretch across the lake, I whispered, not to her, but to myself, I'm still here. I'm still me. And I'm enough. 6 months passed. Half a year since that cafe conversation. Since I walked away from Clara, the apartment, and the version of myself that spent too long trying to fix what wasn't mine to fix. The healing didn't come all at once. Some days still stung. I'd walk by a bakery that sold her favorite muffins or hear a song we used to play during road trips, and the weight of memory would settle on my chest like dust. Not enough to choke me, just enough to remind me it was there. But most days I was okay. I moved into a smaller place. Nothing fancy, just mine. Quiet mornings became my new normal. Coffee in hand, sunlight streaming through half-open blinds, no shoes by the door that weren't mine. And while the silence used to ache, it had become peaceful now. Sacred, even. I reconnected with old friends, went on weekend hikes, got back into sketching, something I hadn't done since college. It felt good to have ink-stained fingers again. One afternoon, while browsing at a local bookstore, a woman asked me if I'd read a certain novel. I hadn't. We ended up talking for 20 minutes about books, about work, about how neither of us understood modern poetry, but pretended to anyway. Her name was Elise. We didn't exchange numbers that day. Just a smile and a, maybe I'll see you here again? And I did. A week later. Then again and again. We took things slow. No labels, no pressure, just two people learning to laugh again. We shared stories, most of them light. But eventually, I told her the truth. About Clara. The betrayal, the hospital. The way it all came crashing down like thunder on a blue sky day. She didn't flinch, just nodded and said, that must have hurt like hell. It did, but it didn't anymore. Not like it used to. I asked her once why she never pressed me about dating or the future. She smiled and said, because you needed space to be a person first, not someone's second chance. And that stayed with me. Meanwhile, Clara's name came up less and less. Friends who once danced around it stopped mentioning her altogether. It was like she had become a ghost in my story, still part of the past, but no longer haunting the present. Then one morning, I got a letter in the mail, handwritten. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting instantly. It was from Clara. She wrote about moving out of state, starting fresh, said Alex had recovered mostly, that they'd tried to make it work, but it hadn't. Too much pain, too many cracks beneath the surface. She thanked me for loving her once, for showing her what it meant to be safe, even if she didn't recognize it until it was gone. She ended it by saying, "I hope you're happy, truly." I folded the letter and placed it in a drawer, not out of bitterness, but because I didn't need it anymore. I had already made peace with that chapter. One Saturday evening, Elise and I found ourselves walking by the lake. That lake. I hadn't been back since that day alone, but it didn't feel heavy anymore. It felt familiar, like a song I once knew all the words to. We sat on a bench overlooking the water. The sky was soft with dusk, the way it always seemed to be in those moments that felt important. She turned to me and asked, "Do you believe people can really start over?" I thought about it for a long time. Then I said, "Not start over, but move forward? Yeah, absolutely." Because that's what I had done. Not by erasing the pain, not by pretending it didn't happen, but by walking through it, by sitting with the discomfort, by rebuilding my life one quiet, ordinary, beautiful day at a time. As the sun dipped below the horizon, I reached for Elise's hand. Not because I needed someone, but because I wanted to share that moment. And for the first time in a long, long while, I felt whole. Not because I had found someone new, but because I had finally found myself again.